YouTube, it's Composer here, and I have another video for you in the beginner series. This is part 2. Last time we talked about scales and some basic ideas about like the musical lingo and the musical vocabulary that you would have to know as a musician. So this time I want to get a little bit more into what a scale can do for you and what the rest of this stuff means on the page here. So we'll get into some more vocab first. I think that's a good way to start. So each of these 4 notes that we talked about last time in this scale, you see how it's cut with that line straight down right there? Each cut like that, everything in between, that's called a measure. Now one measure is however long you want to make it. And that is something that would be determined by what's called the time signature here, these 2 numbers on the left. Now time signature is split into 2 different numbers. The top number is the number of beats in a measure. Now a beat is something that you can count out. So if this was any certain tempo, I could sing a scale at that tempo. So a tempo is how fast something goes, and then the beat is when a note plays in that tempo. So I'm going to clap the beat, and then I'm also going to sing the scale. Bum, 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 bum. So that's just the basics of tempo. So I'm clapping a tempo right now, and each clap that I do is 1 beat. Now I can set this into however many beats per measure that I wanted to do. So like let's say I wanted 3 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. And I can write that out with a different time signature. I can also do some advanced things later on, but the 3 major ones are 4/4, which is what we see where there's 4 beats in every measure, 4 claps per measure. 3/4, 3 claps per measure, or 3 beats per measure, and then 2/4, which is just 2 beats or 2 claps per measure, however you want to rule that in. And you can change that as much as you like on your own software, or you can experiment with a metronome. I know a lot of metronomes have the feature to change your time signature. Now another important thing in music is a rest. Now you see these little thick lines, voice crack, thick lines in that second space right there facing downwards. That is a whole rest. And now a whole rest, or a whole note for that matter, anything that has the word whole accompanied with it, occupies 4 beats. So if we were in a measure of 4/4, then that whole note would cover up that entire measure. Like if I plopped one down right here, then that whole measure is going to have a sustained note that covers the entire 4-clap measure. But if we didn't have any notes in that measure and we wanted the players to rest, or the musicians to rest, we do exactly what I just said. It's just rest. So these little bars or other little notations like that, that's a rest. This is a rest, and also this is a rest. So the one that's facing downwards, that is a whole rest, and that means it occupies the entire measure of 4/4. The one that's facing upwards, the one highlighted in pink right there, that is a half rest, and that means it occupies 2 beats, or half of this 4/4 measure. This little funky one that looks like it has a stem and like a little bulb on the end of it, that is a 8th note, or 8 rest, and the 8th rest takes up 1/2 of a beat. So the way we would count that out is, there's our beats, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So every time I say 1 and, those would be 8th notes. So it splits up a beat into 2. And then the last one that we see up here is the quarter rest. And this quarter rest takes up 1 whole beat. So every clap would be occupied by a quarter rest. And that's the same as these quarter notes, but it's just telling the musician not to play there instead of play that note. So that's the basics of rests and measures. Now let's see how we're doing on time. Oh yeah, we're only about halfway there. So another thing you can do with scales, and this is good for practice, like if you're a musician too, or if you're just trying to write music out, is you can make chords. Now chords are made up of scales, and scales are made up of notes. Now what do we call these notes besides just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C? That makes it a lot easier to organize, that you can take throughout all the different scales. Now we count using numbers in music. Numbers are a big thing in music. And the note that you start out on of the scale is the root, or 1. Then the next note up is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, or the octave. So these are your basic, just 1 octave scale notes or numbers that you would think about. Now when you're doing a chord, that's another way to work out a scale. So like if I was to do a C major chord, I would only use 1, 3, 5, and 7. So that would be a chord. Now triads are also another version of chords, and this is a little bit different. Instead of putting a 7th, you would just do 1, 3, and 5 of any scale. I can copy that with the G. 1, 3, 5, and then F sharp would be our 7. And then if I was going to do it a triad, then it would be 1, 3, 5. Oh, not a C, a D. That's what we wanted. But there's that. So triads and chords, those are the 2 main types, the 2 basic types of things that you can do to outline these scales in your song. And like if I was going along and I had a piece where it came to a point where it was going to end the song, I wanted to end on something like a chord or a triad to make it sound really nice, because you can't play, when you're trying to hold out a note, you can't play 8 notes just in a sequence if you want to hold something out. So what we would do is layer on top of each other in different parts, and there would be a chord all in one measure. So I'm going to play everything that we've done so far and see what we can do here. So we're going to hear the scales first, then we're going to hear our chords, triads, and then finally a chord all in one measure. Then a measure of rest, that's what I'm talking about, silence, chord, triad. Nice. So you can stack up notes to make these chords. So everything that you see in that diagonal-like line right there, you can smush into one chord like so and just stack it all on top of each other like that. And then you have a 4-note chord. It all works out to make it really simple once you get a hang of it. But if you don't have a grasp on it yet, no, you don't have to worry about it. It takes everyone forever. Like, I didn't know music theory until I actually got to high school, in which case I finally understood how everything sounded the way it did, and that's what I'm trying to teach you guys. But the best way that you can really learn music theory is go on and listen to music that you like. A good type of music for music theory is video game music, or movie music actually, that is made like using an orchestra. So if you look up maybe some Hans Zimmer music, he's really good at this, John Williams even, and then you can kind of hear how scales are used and how different notes are used. And then when you write that out on your own softwares, which I have links on my channel, then you'll be able to hear the different relationships between the notes and the different scales. So I am hoping this series is helping you guys out so far, and if you have any questions, as always, put those down in the comment section. I'll answer you on Wednesdays in those Wednesday videos. And then we are looking for more subscribers and always more likes. So if you guys feel like it, definitely go hit that subscribe button below. It really helps out the channel, and then you'll be able to keep up with all the other tutorials. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Composered, and have a great day.